Welcome to MSP Unplugged. I'm your host, Paco LeBron. This is the place to learn how to run your IT business, whether you are a nimble MSP or leading a team for the journey. This is the place for you. Let me go ahead and reintroduce you to my partner in crime, my co-conspirator, my co-host, Mr. Rick Smith over at Renactus Technology. Rick, how the heck are you, my friend?
I think Paco's excited to see me back here. I'm doing great, man. Been away for a little bit, took a little break, but I'm back and I'm ready to roll.
Yep, talk about returns, boy. We are glad to have you back in roll here. We're jugging and jiving in 2026, and I guess I should speak about returns. I'm excited to share because there's been some little birdies, some rumors, a lot of people yelling in my inbox, my voicemails, text messages, emails, messengers, Instagram DMs, you name it, about what is going on with TechCon. Well, I'm happy to announce here that TechCon Unplugged will be back September 17th to the 19th in Chicago. Yes, that is right. My hometown. We're going to be bringing it back with such a great opportunity. So if you are interested in coming back to our 7th annual, can you believe it's been 7 years?
Wow.
7 years. Our 7th annual TechCon Unplugged. Head over to techconunplugged.com, grab your early bird tickets. The agenda and the speaker announcements will be coming soon. But again, TechCon Unplugged, for those that are maybe the first time you're listening and may not be aware of what TechCon is. TechCon Unplugged is our annual event that brings together like-minded IT individuals, professionals, MSPs, and industry leaders for genuine conversations and real connections. Most importantly, it's so that you can bring practical takeaways with you back home. So again, head over to techconunplugged.com, sign up for the updates, and we hope to see you there. Now coming up here, about 6 months.
6 months.
So it's going to be coming here fast. So, Rick, appreciate you coming back here, man, my friend. You're back in the co-chair seat. We're trucking and rolling. Hope it feels like home.
Definitely. Glad to be back.
You know, we've covered a lot of ground since you've actually had a solo-ish episode that we've interviewed you, right? So, you know, just for a quick catch-up for listeners, you know, what's shifted over at Renactus Technology in your world since our last deep dive that we've been able to talk about your business?
Well, the world has basically flipped upside down for Renactus. No, but we've been doing, trying to, again, like as always, trying to grow, service our customers. What has changed a lot, and I'm sure I'm not going to say anything that's new to anyone here, is AI, right? And I've dug and took a deep dive down into AI, and we are implementing AI in a lot of the functions of the way the company runs. Not necessarily or on the tool side, but on the operational side. We've done a lot more AI, implemented a lot more AI to help us with basically to fill in some gaps that when we took our own little autopsy of where we're falling short, we realized there's a couple of spaces we needed to fill. And the quickest and easiest way to do it was AI. Some of you who probably know me and listen to me and talk to me know I'm very deep in the go high level as well. And they have a lot of AI features that we have implemented into the company. So we're not only using the CRM, we're using a lot of the automations, a lot of the AI to help us run the business. So that has been the majority of where our efforts have been lately.
Now, would you consider that as kind of like a pivot, or would you consider that as kind of something that you're embracing for the future for the next 12 to 18 months? And the reason why I ask is because, you know, MSPs are no stranger to pivots, right? And focusing, whether it's, you know, service models, pricing, tech stacks, even down to like leadership style. Because sometimes you have to bring on people, whether it's outsourcing, external, internal, things of that nature. When it comes to that AI piece, right, and really diving into it, obviously you've mentioned go high level, and that's kind of where the concentration has been. Have you solely focused on that being the operating system of your MSP, or is that just one of the components of your journey to AI and embracing it for Renactus?
Well, it's kind of, I hate to use it, but it's a little bit of both. But mainly, it is really, it's right now it serves now as the core, right, of the chain. Okay. And that is because the AI implementation inside of it is easier to adopt.
Okay.
But I also have been exploring things like N8N, working with other AIs outside of ChatGPT. Some other things that we've been doing. This is now experimental. As most of us who are technical know, and we started our business more so on the technical side. You get a hold of something, you start learning something, you dive deep and you dive deep and you dive deeper. So now that is what I'm doing. So I've been taking a lot deeper dive into AI, into knowing that there's more to AI than ChatGPT. I can still remember maybe 3 years ago now, the first time you asked me if I ever heard of ChatGPT, I was like, what the hell are you talking about? But we are, we're embracing, if you ask me if it's a pivot, I would say it's more so just as a next step, right? It's not a total change.
Okay. Well, let me rephrase it then. Why did you feel it was necessary to go lean into the AI piece for your business? And it sounds like obviously you've made a stride in the adoption, right? And learning about the different types of AI. And I've gone on camera and said this, where we're going to get into a world where AIs are going to integrate with other AIs and they're going to figure out their own situation. Apparently they have their own social network and they're talking to each other, supposedly. But, why did you feel it was necessary to lean into going this way? Because, we hear AI everywhere, right? Every piece of software we use, every item, everything, every technology piece has some type of smart thing going on with it. What made you want to lean into it for that? Why did you feel it was necessary to go forward with that versus just automation, for example, or some other piece of the business? Why was AI such a center for you to lean into it?
Well, I would say, first and foremost, AI is basically, everything is being implemented via AI, right? Or AI is being implemented everywhere. So it's important for us to know and understand. Now, one of the reasons, again, like I said, when we did the autopsy on the business, looking at where the holes are, where the gaps are, the easiest way to fill some of those gaps was using AI tools, right?
Yeah.
So that is probably the primary reason, and it's probably the simplest to do, is that is using those tools to help you fill those gaps. And then from there, you flourish out. Now, again, you think about it this way. We went from a company that's open from 8 to 6, right, in the morning, but that's when our phones are answered live. Now we have an AI agent who can answer the phones in the evening. If there's a true emergency, that call can be escalated out to a help desk now, right, to help someone after hours. If there are questions that people have on website, now the AI is interactive, right? So you can go to the website and start talking to basically verbally start talking to the website and get answers to some questions you may have. Figure out how you can meet with us. Figure out how you can, set up an appointment, or maybe some basic questions answered. And even as far as clients being able now to put in tickets after hours if they don't call. And of course, we always encourage them to use the portal, which they don't.
Right.
But now they can call and put in a ticket via the AI, which will send the ticket in, and we can get to them. So those are things that, when we did that autopsy and realized where the gaps were, as far as from an operational standpoint, those were the things we fixed. Now, of course, next, most of the tools we use are incorporating AI, of course, coming in. So that'll be a further next step as we look as what we can do with that. But again, that's round 2.
Sure. Now, obviously, last time we talked, right, it was kind of you running the business. You had a couple of people helping you. You were still answering phone calls. You were still kind of doing it all, the jack of all trades, right? And really just ensuring you had the control of the MSP in your hands, right? Looking back, right, because obviously some things have changed, and we want to talk about that, right? But many of us make changes due to something, whether it's the times, the landscape, the AI hype is now real, which obviously we've just talked a little bit about. Can you talk about maybe a couple, either big or small, changes that you've made structurally with the MSP, whether, again, it's team, security posture, balancing how you run the MSP? Is there a couple of those things since we've last talked that you can kind of shed light on for those that are listening that could probably maybe feel like, yeah, maybe that is something I probably want to do?
Yeah, well, I think it's been team and operations is the focus, because again, we all try to run, as we do the business, and as we we always want to give the best service. But one of the biggest factors we have with that is time, right? Time affects us. So what I started to realize was my time was more valuable off the phone. My time was more valuable trying to answer every ticket myself. So yes, we got someone to answer the phones, someone to answer tickets. Then I can focus on some of the bigger issues, right? Or some of the bigger projects. So I would say, again, I always make this analogy. You got to think about when we run a managed service business, right? There's the service part and then there's the business side.
Right.
And what I came to realize was my time was more valuable to managing the business side of things than, I'm sorry, I said that backwards. My time was more valuable not focusing on the smaller sides of the business that I could either hire out or basically, train AI to do. So then now I'm able to take my time and spend it on things that are more profitable for the business, I guess is the best way to put it.
No, I mean, it gets back to being able to say, how are you balancing running your business versus growing your business, right? There's a way of being able to do things and really driving to a point of understanding, all right, I can keep doing the same thing over and over again, or I can actually make the smart bets, put some resources behind it so that I can duplicate myself or duplicate efforts, or I shouldn't say duplicate efforts, but be able to do other efforts so that you can achieve the goal you're looking to do further and actually be able to run the path to finish line a lot faster.
What Paco was saying is you finally did what I've been telling you to do for years. That's what he meant.
But, as I was kind of talking about before the break, as a co-host of MSP Unplugged, right, we've heard, I can't even count, hundreds of stories. Actually, hundreds of stories. We're actually going to hit up to our 300th episode. But wow. We've heard hundreds of stories from guests about adapting and really trying to figure out, how should they do things, or when they're in the tunnel of figuring out what they want to do for their business, it's hard to get the overview or the overhead viewpoint of that, right? With the lens of Renactus, right, and you running that business, is there one industry type change that you've leaned to, not AI, I'm not going to give you that cop-out, but you leaned into the hardest lately that helped you get a little bit more in regards to understanding what your next 3 to 5 year goal is for the business?
Well, that's a tough question because I can't say AI.
You can't use AI.
Okay, so I don't want
to. Because obviously, and the reason I say this is because everyone always says, yes, I'm implementing AI, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many facets to do it. But like AI and everything else is a tool. There has to be an end goal that you that it's allowing you to achieve, right? And so there has to have been something that caused you to lean into it more to get to somewhere either faster, stronger, things of that nature with the business. So
5 minutes until the exhibit hall closes. Make your connections now.
That's what happens when you're live. So, as I was saying.
So I think, again, it has come down to more so strategic thinking, I think is a better, I don't know if I can come up with an industry change.
I mean, from everyone we've talked to, right? I mean, there's been so many things that people have mentioned that they've been implemented, standardization, tools, something that you're like, man, I wish I would have thought about that beforehand, I'll give you a perfect example. Even the side conversations we had last night in our circle of groups, referring to a particular unified threat management device that was very popular in our industry. Some were like, it was the best thing, and it's still one of the best that are out there to adopt. I, on the other hand, will disagree and say that there are probably other options that are going to be more ability for management, and going that route will actually allow you to do better by your client versus adopting something that's older and trying to make it fit like a square puzzle. Just, things like that.
I got you. Well, okay, 2 things we're going to say. One, I switched my RMMPSA again.
Okay.
Well, excuse me, that made me choke. I switched back to my previous RMMPSA, right?
Okay.
And secondly, what I've done, what I think is something I wanted to do forever, is I've reduced my tech stack as opposed to increasing my tech stack, right?
Okay.
I realized that, we always talk about shiny object syndrome, right?
Yes.
And there was a lot of that going on. And then there's also a lot of actually doing the again, that autopsy of what do you really need, what do you have, what are you using, and then what do you need? Because there are 3 different categories, right?
True.
And then so now I've learned to reduce what we are using because they serve a certain purpose, right? So We don't need to cover. We need to secure our clients. We need to, make sure they're safe, make sure everything runs smoothly. But, we don't need to do it as if they are, operating a $90 billion business from space, right?
Yep.
So there's certain things that we certain tools, certain approaches to things that we need to scale it to the size of our client as opposed to what the industry tells us we should be doing, right?
Yes,
And I
100%.
think that's very important. So when you look and you realize what you're spending, not only the cost of from a financial perspective, but a cost of time, a cost of implementation time, learning time, and then all of that running, and then you realize, hey, I don't even need all of this because all of this doesn't necessarily fit what we're doing. So I think that is a big deal, and it's a big move that I think we should all think about because, we always talk about, we joked about this last night, and I always remember the Jeff Haller's show I was on. We talked about the one pane of glass doesn't really exist.
Oh yeah,
right?
it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
It doesn't exist. But the whole point about it is this. What we want to do is we do want to reduce the amount of places we need to go to be efficient, right?
Yep.
And some of that may mean, it doesn't necessarily mean you need to have all of the same products by the same company, but you need to have the right products by the right company that covers what you need. And I think that's been a big change we've done too. That autopsy we did, it was deep dive because it, again, helped me realize where the business is coming up short, but more importantly, where I'm coming up short.
Yeah. I mean, there's trade-offs, right?
Right.
And being able to pivot, and it goes back to how people always there's always two sides to that conversation, right? There's always the piece of where you have those that are trying to limit their tools, right, and kind of reduce the attack surface. Then you have the other side that says, well, I don't want to put all my eggs in that basket because I'm concerned a single point of failure in regards to cyber attack or just operational efficiency and that being affected. So there's kind of a trade-off, right? And it's just a philosophy that you kind of have to just adopt kind of moving in there because there is trade-offs on the pivoting and things of that nature, right? But even going down to, as I mentioned, I'm going to stay on the networking topic that we discussed from last night and to today, and something we've talked about even when a couple of my peers were here as well, is that, there's this big focus on you have to have a firewall, you have to have a firewall, you have to have a firewall, universal threat management. And my argument, again, is it's fine. You can check the box. Sure, it's going to do that. But are you doing a disservice to your client if you're not doing all of the things that the firewall can do?
Right.
Right? And from everyone I've spoke to from of all sizes, 9 times out of 10, it is not set up correctly, and you're basically putting a business router in there.
Right.
So why not go into putting it in something that you can manage, you can have the ability to do so that you don't have to worry about that piece, right? Again, it's all about getting to good. And I think, and you just mentioned about earlier, is that, everyone's trying to get to where the X size of MSP is, or that business. You want to try and be into the size where you're at, but you don't even have the good foundation set for it. If you can't get to good, you can't get to better. And there's no way to get to best in between. And so put in the pieces, put in the parts that you have to go ahead and do, get your standardization in place, really focusing on that piece, which you've just talked about, right? You made that change, right? You've gone back to your previous PSA and RMM vendor because the fact of the matter was that platform was what you needed versus either what the platform you were on before provided you more than what you needed, was not at the value that you needed it for, or could not just not work. Right, and we run into that, and that happens to the evolution of all types of software and things and stuff like that, right? Again, pivots are not meant for the faint of heart, right? There are trade-offs, there are resources lost, there is time that you have to sacrifice, there are big things that you have to go into, and especially if you don't have all the resources, these are calculated moves that you have to make, and sometimes you just don't really want to do that, right?
Right.
But kind of going into that, right? And there's always uncertainty when it comes to running a business, right? And we're talking about finishing up Q1 of 2026, right? Early in the year, you are already feeling the momentum, right? Sounds like you've made some good changes. You're working on some things of that nature. From where you sit, what do you think, kind of from your lens, is the biggest challenge that you see that MSPs are making right now that either are repeats and are kind of continuing a cycle, or something new that's happening that you wish that, hey, we might want to get ahead of that before it becomes a real big problem down the line many years to come? Is there anything that you've seen, something like that?
He's making me think. No, but I think there's I think there's a couple of things, right? I'm going back. It all, I guess, falls right back into this same scheme. Everything is expanding. Every product we use, they're coming out with new tools for it, right? They're coming out with something new. And I think one of the things, the trap we can't get caught into is buying something just because they say it has the next best technology, or using something just because it's supposed to be the next best technology.
It is now 6:30.
It's 6:30.
And the sponsor pavilion is closed. There is the IT community block party this evening with shuttles departing on your way towards the hotel. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
We're live, folks, and that's what you get. And we're back from our second break. But as you were saying, Rick, we were talking about a little bit about how really what you've seen in the industry and how you are trying to see that they probably are a decision that they probably might want to heed their bet on, or something that might be a little bit more drastic that may be continuing to be repeating a cycle.
Well, okay, I'm going to pivot a little bit, to use your word. I'm going to pivot a little bit. And one of the things I thought, you hear me talk about AI all the time, right? And AI is great, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think where you're going, or where I think you're going, or what I'm feeling is there's also that over usage of it as well, right?
Okay.
So that I need to have AI in everything I do, and because remember, and I this business always comes down to people with people, right? We fix machines, but the people who owns those machines are people. Who fixes those machines are us, people, right? So this business is always going to be a relationship business. So I don't want us to fall into the trap of, because something is new, because AI is new, and it is, quote unquote, the next best thing since sliced bread. And I do think it's going to play a major role in everything we do. But it's just it's going to play a role. It is not going to be the takeover. So I think one of the traps we have to make sure we don't fall into is making sure that we still remember that this is a people-to-people business, right? A human-to-human business, and relationships are built that way. So if I say a trend that will repeat itself is us over-relying on tools, right? Yeah. Over-relying on on things that will we say will propel our business, and then we forget about the human part of this. So that may be where my caution is.
Gotcha. Going into the back half or remainder of 2026, right? What are you looking at as in regards to you've gone into the quarter one, you've now made this investment in AI. You're obviously hating that moving forward into the technology. What is it that you can say to yourself that right now for the rest of 2026, if you were to move forward on this, or you know what, let me rewind it a little bit. I'm going to actually use 2025 as an example. From all of the things that you've implemented or have done and changed, things of that nature, is there one thing you wish that you could undo so that 2026 could be a little bit stronger for yourself?
There's a lot of things I wish I could undo.
List them out.
No, I think, again, Paco and I have been having this conversation for years about that shiny object syndrome, right? And sometimes I still got caught in it. So that is probably one of the things I wish I would not do. And now...
So let's double click on that, because I think we say the topic, but we don't know specifically in case those that are listening for it, right? When we say shiny object syndrome, what we're trying to say is there is a stack that you're using, right? You're using the stack, you're using these tools. Your tool may actually have a feature that is going to do the thing that you want to do. It may not be pretty, may not be able to be the best, but it does specifically what you want it to do. There may be another vendor, another solution that pretties up this feature. May even integrate into the things that you do, but comes at an additional cost. And also, you have to ask the question, is it going to truly provide you value to your end client? 9 times out of 10, the question is no. And so that's why we want to make sure when we talk about shiny object syndrome, tool sprawl, that we focus on the true mission of what you want to do for the tool versus the tool itself. But I'll go ahead and let you go.
And that's absolutely right. And I think one of the things we need to do is we need to really pay close attention to that. I think what I've learned, we use probably less than 50% of each tool we have now anyway, right? Because again, it goes back to what I said earlier. Every client, or based on your client base, based on your industry you service, your niche, you don't necessarily need or will use all of the things that are included in said tool, right? Your best choice is to make sure that you get the most efficient tool, the tool that you can get the most efficiency out of, based on where you are from a client size, from a client industry, and from the size of your MSP, what you can handle, right? That's where your focus should be. Again, if we want to talk about it, I made a switch from my previous RMM PSA to a new RMM PSA. And it's not that it was a bad product. I don't want to say that. But it wasn't a product that didn't fit what I needed. It was more of a jack of all trades, where it was a hammer, a wrench, a knife, and a saw, when all I needed was the hammer and the wrench, right? That's all I'm using right now. So the other two pieces, or the other four tools, they just didn't necessarily serve my purpose, and I was paying for them. And again, the other thing we always got to keep thinking about is cost. And it's not just a financial cost. There's a time cost, right? Mm-hmm. There's an implementation cost. We talk about all these things again. There's an efficiency cost. When you have to make changes first and foremost, and then when you have to make a adaptation to what those changes are. So I think a couple of things, again, learning that simplifying the tool set was one. Learning that I don't need the whole toolbox when I need to get the tools I need to do the work. So I think those are big changes that I wish I wish I wouldn't have made those changes and had to go and learn the hard way that I can go back and make it easier.
No, I make total agreement with you. I think that, we have gone through a point where sometimes, even in the early days where I was paying almost $1,000 a month as a part-time business owner, and I was like, why am I paying $1,000 for tools? It was like $250 for the website a month, doing the subscription for these processors, paying monthly fees. And so it took my conversation with Jeff Hallish, and this is where I understood, where it's like, why are you trying to keep up with the Joneses? Like, why are you trying to invest in, tools that bigger MSPs are looking for when you don't need those fundamentals, when you had the fundamentals already? So one of the great big lessons that I learned from that side. So we're going to try and round out the show. We introduced a new segment into the show. It's called a rapid fire.
Oh, God.
And it's going to be whatever first comes into your mind.
Okay.
So first question I'm going to throw for you is that, what is your favorite recent pivot or change that's paid off big?
Okay, implementing my AI on my website and on my phone system.
Okay, so what do you mean by AI on your phone, or on your website and the phone system?
Now you can go where there's a normal chat box. You can actually talk to the website to get answers, get questions, set up appointments, things like that. Okay. Same thing with the phone service. Rather than now saying, hey, the office is closed, leave a message, or if it's an emergency, press 1. Now the actual phone system, well, if it's an emergency or something and if someone needs something, based on different keywords, it will roll over to the AI now and help to answer those questions, solve those problems, give some basic quick answers for certain things. So I think that has helped because it saved me a lot of time. And also, one other thing we've done, which I think is great, is now we have the AI rolling up our day, basically. So let me know, here's where we started, here's where we ended. These are the things you said we needed to get done. This is what we actually got done. So now I have basically a progress report on what I'm doing.
Gotcha. Perfect. What is one thing that you're most excited about or weary about MSPs for the rest of 2026?
Well, there's just a lot of challenges coming up, so I know one of the big things has been pricing, and I've been reading a lot. I've seen this more than once, so I'm kind of concerned, and then I'm just wondering if maybe it's just an issue. But on a lot of the community pages now, I've been seeing people talking about how business is slowing down, right? I don't know if that is because, there's a lot of new competition. I know the phone companies, Verizon now is offering some type of MSP services. Yep. There are a lot of larger companies are offering MSP services that really put a threat on our business. So I think that is something that I do think we should take a look out for, and actually be proactive in how we sell or how we communicate to our clients what they're actually getting from us.
Yeah. What is one tool that you are super excited to either start working on or that you're working on right now for your business?
I am finally making that full-fledged, as you know, I was a big Untangle fan, right? I am finally making that full move to ubiquity. I was basically always on the firewall, on the UTM side. I was, Untangle forever. I still have some boxes out there, but I am making that full move over now to Unify.
So what are you switching from on the Unify side from the UTMs?
I'm going with the what's it called? The Ultras and the Pros.
Okay, Cloud Gateway Ultras.
The Gateway, right? Thank you.
And there's a line of them as well. There's the Cloud Gateway Ultras. There's the Unify Expresses. There's the new Cloud Gateway Industrial that's coming out. That's rack mountable and things of that nature. So.
And I think it's important, again, going back to, you only need to get what your clients need. So based on the size of your client, that's what you need to get. You don't need the Ultra for a 3-man
100%. If you got a small office, you can put in a Unify Express 7. It has Wi-Fi built into it. You can manage it into the stack, but we'll dive in more. The hope is, or there's a little bit of a tease. I'm speaking with Jason Miller over at Unbound Digital, who's a very big implementer of the Unify product line, and we wanted to do an episode on how to design a network topology when you're quoting or you're prospecting a new client when retrofitting or trying to upgrade their network. So be on the lookout for that show as well. Mr. Smith.
Yes, sir.
It's been fun as always. Glad to have you back here as our good esteemed co-host. We'll be running through a lot more as we used to back in the day. I don't need to ask you how anybody can find you because you can find them right here over at MSP Unplugged. So you can hit them up on LinkedIn, Rick at MSPUnplugged.com, info at MSPUnplugged.com. You name it. We'll get that email over to him. We'll make sure he gets on there. But no, appreciate you making your re-debut. I think the fans have been asking about you, see how everything is going. So glad to hear everything is all well, my friend. And appreciate all of you for tuning in every week over on the video podcast, youtube.com/MSPUnplugged. Like, subscribe, hit that notification button so you can be notified whenever a new episode is available. If you want to take us on the go, you're on your favorite podcatcher app, head over to MSPUnplugged.com, find the icon that you love the most, click on there, and you'll be able to subscribe as well. But most importantly, TechConUnplugged.com. Head over there to get your early bird tickets here. We're going to try and pull all the stops. DC was such a fun time. We're going to try and do it again over here in Chicago.
So DC was the last one.
DC was the last one.
Wow, okay.
2024. Time is flying when you have fun. So with that, thank you so much. We'll see you next time on MSP Unplugged.